In January 2023, a team of 6 experienced researchers ascended the Roraima Plateau, a place often described as one of the last true geological fortresses on Earth. For a week, they cataloged formations, recorded climate data, and maintained routine contact. Then, suddenly, all communication stopped. At first, authorities blamed weather interference. But the rescue team reported that the region had been stable for 48 hours before the group vanished. When they finally reached the plateau, they were met not with signs of a simple accident, but with the first clue that something was deeply wrong. A trail of footprints led from the abandoned camp. They were perfectly preserved, deliberate, orderly, and made by all 6 members. Yet the prints ended sharply in the center of a flat stone field. No slope, no sand, no gap, simply an immediate disappearance of all trace. Tracking experts later stated that such an abrupt termination of footprints is physically impossible under known natural conditions. Even on hard stone, displaced dust, microabrasion, or pressure marks should continue. But here, there was nothing beyond the final step. The second clue was the tent. It stood intact, untouched by storms or animals. However, one side of the tent wall had been sliced cleanly open. Laboratory analysis later showed that the cut originated from inside the tent, made in a single motion with surprising precision. The group had not unzipped the entrance. They had not attempted organized evacuation. They had cut their way out in seconds, leaving personal items, warm clothing, and instruments behind. Something compelled them to escape abruptly, without deliberation. The third clue came from a corrupted 12-second video on the expedition leader's phone. The recording showed dense fog swirling unnaturally. Behind it, a steady pulsing light illuminated the mist in sharp intervals. Analysts found no match among known atmospheric or artificial sources. At the 10th second of the recording, a whisper appeared beneath the static. Acoustic reconstruction suggested the phrase, "above us." It was the first implication that the group perceived the threat not at their level, but somewhere higher, possibly above the plateau itself. The fourth clue originated from residents of the nearby village of Camarata. On the night of the incident, several people reported prolonged screams coming from the direction of the plateau. They described the sound as layered, metallic, and inhuman. Witnesses insisted the source was elevated, echoing in the open air above the plateau, not across its surface. The timing of these accounts aligned precisely with the estimated moment when the recorded video was captured by the expedition. The fifth clue was discovered near the base of Roraima's stone wall. Deep, parallel gouges were found carved into several trees, 3 meters above ground. The cuts were consistent with a heavy force pressing downward while moving vertically. Botanical experts examined the impressions and estimated that the mass required to create such grooves was at least 300 kilograms. No species native to the region is capable of leaving marks of that size and depth, especially at that height. The sixth clue was the missing equipment. A satellite beacon, a radio transmitter, 2 flashlights, a multi-tool, and a signal flare gun were all gone. These were not objects that could roll away or be displaced by a storm. One volunteer later claimed to have seen a torn piece of a backpack caught high in the branches of a 9-meter tree. When questioned again, he refused to comment further, and the fragment he described was never recovered. The search team continued to examine the plateau for weeks. Then, 23 days after the operation was officially closed, a field notebook was discovered beneath a layer of wet moss. Most of the pages were destroyed, but one remained intact. The surviving line read, "It climbed after us along the wall. Not wind." This sentence was the most direct description of whatever the group encountered. It suggested movement along the vertical stone face, something capable of pursuing them from below or above. When investigators combined all 7 clues, the footprints, the tent, the video, the screams, the gouges, the missing gear, and the note, a pattern began to emerge. It suggested that the group perceived a threat large enough to trigger immediate flight. Based on the timeline, it appears the group was disrupted shortly after nightfall. The fog was unusually thick. Vibrations were reported by 2 nearby observation stations. And the pulsing light documented in the video may have been their first sign of danger. Instead of preparing a controlled exit, they slashed the tent fabric and ran. Their movement for the next several hundred meters was steady but disoriented, not panicked, but urgent. As if they were trying to stay ahead of something they could not fully see. The abrupt end of their footprint suggests that the group reached a point where the surface offered no medium to record further impressions. Yet this does not explain why no dust displacement, drag marks, or secondary disturbances were found. The gouges in the trees below the plateau indicate that something heavy descended the vertical wall. The pattern of the marks suggests controlled, deliberate movement, not a fall or accidental impact. If the group saw this descent, it may explain their rapid departure. Whatever they witnessed, it approached them not from the forest, not from the sky, but from the very structure of the plateau itself. The missing equipment further supports the hypothesis of an encounter rather than an accident. Tools that could assist in signaling for help were removed from the scene entirely, with no trace of human handling or distribution. The phone video ends abruptly. Audio analysts believe the recording stopped because the device was either dropped or forcibly interrupted. The whisper, above us, may have been the final conscious observation from the group. The notebook entry, likely written in the hours before the disappearance, indicates a sustained pursuit. It climbed after us along the wall. The wording suggests something the writer perceived clearly and directly. Investigators attempted multiple reconstructions. None matched the combination of clues. Weather events, known animals, human interference, all failed to recreate the evidence left behind on the plateau. The most accepted theory among independent researchers is that the expedition encountered a previously undocumented natural or biological phenomenon, one capable of vertical traversal, emitting rhythmic light, and generating unfamiliar vocal patterns. This theory does not claim supernatural causes. Instead, it suggests that the plateau's unique geology, microclimate, and isolation could host rare forms of life or physical processes that remain unknown to science. The official report remains unchanged, a tragic accident. Yet the 7 clues show discrepancies too significant to ignore. The disappearance of the group reflects gaps in our understanding of the plateau and what may exist on its towering walls. Roraima stands as one of the least explored regions on the continent. And until the true cause of the 2023 disappearance is understood, the plateau remains one of Earth's most silent mysteries, holding answers only for those willing to look beyond official explanations.